Today is Monday, April 7th, 2025. It's 10 a.m. and I am going to call to order and do the roll call. Do I gavel before I do the roll call or after? All right. Call the meeting to order. My name is Eric Price. I'm the Audit Committee Chair now. Today is April 7th, 2025. The Audit Oversight Committee meeting is called to order. Will the City Clerk call the roll, please?
Chair Price.
Present.
Vice Chair Seaman. Excused. Member Karcher.
Present.
Member Bruni.
Present.
Member Booker.
Present.
Thank you, Chair. You have a quorum.
Thank you. And just real briefly, I'd like to welcome Marilyn Booker to the Audit Committee. Congratulations. Thank you for being here to help us out, get this done. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
And Councilwoman Bruni is here as well, new to the Audit Committee, so thank you for being here. Agenda item number 2, announcement regarding compliance with open meeting law. City Clerk, has the meeting been noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is public comment. Comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Is there anyone wishing to be heard at this time? Seeing no one, I'll close the public comment portion and we'll move on to item number 4. Agenda item 4, for possible action to approve the final minutes by reference of the regular meeting of January 6, 2025. Is there a motion for approval?
All motion.
There is a motion. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing no one, please post. The motion carries. Agenda item number 5, discussion for possible action regarding the audit of Department of Youth Development and Social Initiatives. Batteries included youth programs. Nancy Cardoza, Senior Internal Auditor, will be discussing this audit. Please go ahead, Ms. Cardoza.
Good morning. This is Nancy Cardoza, Senior Internal Auditor. The Department of Youth Development and Social Initiatives is focused on youth education in the community. YDSI provides various programs to help improve educational achievements, attendance, and graduation rates, and to improve communities overall. Among YDSI's programs are the Batteries Included and Batteries Included Next Gen programs, known as the BI programs. Batteries Included is a free youth-led high school program. The program is a participatory experience that builds personal responsibility and leadership skills through workforce development, healthy living, leadership development, and college readiness. The program is guided by 4 pillars: education, career development, leadership, and health and safety. There's also the Batteries Included Next Gen program, which is a free middle school leadership program that offers youth opportunities to achieve academically, socially, and emotionally through developing an understanding of self and compassion for others. The program is guided by the 4 pillars used in the high school program, as well as 2 additional pillars: self-awareness and civic engagement. The BI programs provide year-round out-of-school time educational activities at high schools and middle schools, including social events, career workshops, and college preparation classes. In addition, the programs periodically offer college tour trips and visits to trade schools and places of business to introduce students to educational and career opportunities. So I actually had the chance to attend one of these events, as seen in the photos here. This is what is called a Connections Meeting. It gives BI students from all across the city the opportunity to meet and participate in activities together. The event is led by the students of the school hosting the event, wherein they are given the opportunity to manage a large gathering, including finding speakers to talk about topics related to one of the pillars of the program, providing for catering for everyone with a set budget, and providing and conducting group activities for the event. So in these pictures, you can see the speakers that were at the event and some of the students that were there also. Our objectives for this audit were as follows. Objective number 1, travel policy compliance. Verify compliance with the department's travel policies and procedures for all BI students, including a review of required travel documentation, YDSI management approvals, city risk manager approval of insurance and other safety requirements, and to evaluate the adequacy of such policies and procedures. Objective number 2 was program advisor qualifications. Verify whether advisors for the BI programs had met employment requirements, including qualifications in working with children, including past experiences, any CPR certifications, and whether they passed background checks. Objective number 3 was a program expense review, where we reviewed the reasonableness of program expenses for fiscal years ended June 30th, 2023 and 2024. And lastly, objective number 4, program activity information collection and maintenance. Evaluate the adequacy of the process being followed in collecting and maintaining BI program activity information. Our first finding is related to instances of noncompliance with travel policies and procedures. During our audit period, there were 2 trips that occurred, a college expo trip and a university tour trip. According to policy, once a trip is approved by YDSI management, information is to be submitted to City Risk Management, who identifies the specifics of the planned activity and provides the proper coding for any fees deemed necessary by the City Risk Management team for coverage. However, no documentation was found showing evidence of the City Risk Manager's review and approval for both trips. The city's risk manager represented to us that he had not received, reviewed, or approved any BI program travel notifications for these trips. Therefore, he did not have the opportunity to review the insurance policies used by the chartered bus company or the student liability waivers and related forms. In addition, he did not have the opportunity to evaluate whether there were any specific safety concerns that needed to be addressed in these trips. Additionally, we also noted missing or incomplete travel documentation, as noted in the slide here, which included missing medical forms and release and waiver of claim forms. We recommended the following for this finding. YDSI management should document and implement procedures to ensure all necessary travel documentation is obtained prior to travel and subsequently retained. Management should consider implementing the use of a checklist of required travel documents to help staff in this process. Additionally, YDSI management should document and implement procedures to verify that all travel information is properly submitted to the city's risk manager for review and approval prior to travel. And lastly, YDSI management should determine whether the issues identified in this finding exist within any of their other programs, and if so, implement procedures to ensure compliance with policy. Our final finding regards program activity information. The BI program staff maintain a variety of manual activity records, including student registration forms, attendance records, permission slips, student medical information, and more. No software is currently being used to capture and retain the information from these manual records, and it creates inefficiencies for staff when they need to access historical program information or assemble program metrics, as the information is not readily accessible and must be obtained through reference to manual program documentation. So, for example, in order to obtain attendance statistics, that information is obtained from manual sign-in sheets that then have to be manually inputted into a spreadsheet for summarization. And considering the number of activities and the number of students involved in the programs, this creates inefficiencies. Additionally, the use of manual forms can lead to lost documentation and information if not carefully maintained. Per discussions with BI program management and staff, the use of a software application for tracking and reporting program activity information would lead to increased efficiencies. Our recommendation for this last finding is that YDSI management should evaluate what software could be used by BI program staff to more efficiently capture and report program information and activity. Currently, the city's Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Department already uses software known as CivicRec that has features that could potentially aid in the BI programs. Management should consider whether this software could meet the needs of the BI program. And that concludes my report. YDSI has already completed recommendations 1.1 and 1.2, and we are continuing to work with them to close out the remaining recommendations of 1.3 and 2.1. If there are any questions you may have, myself and representatives from YDSI would be happy to help.
Thank you, Ms. Cardoza. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions or any questions from the members?
Hi, how are you? I have a quick question.
Yes.
On the packet that will go to the city manager, the risk manager, are those blank forms or are they completed forms of the students who will be participating in the activities?
So there's usually a travel binder that contains all of the information of the students, and there's a checklist where the city risk manager can go through and check off what he needs to check off, and then sign for his approval. So the binder would contain all of the information of the students.
Because I thought I read that it was supposed to be submitted for like 14 days prior to the activity. So what is the process if you have students who want to attend or raise their hand to attend and it's after, between that like 1 and 14 days? How do you update the documents that are going to the city risk manager?
Hi, Tara Manor here. Good morning. So the documentation for the city manager, the risk manager, that documentation goes to him ahead of time, and it's just the particulars of the field trip. So the date, the time, the bus, where we're going. So yes, the activities that we'll be having. So it's not about the students, it's just the particulars of the actual field trip.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Does anyone have any more questions?
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the second recommendation. So could you share where you're at with respect to looking at software to address the second challenge? And my concern is every time we have to look at new software, it's such a huge price tag. So I just wanted to get a sense of where we're at on that. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Councilwoman. Dr. Tammy Malich, Director of Youth Development and Social Initiatives, for the record. We are looking at a data management system. CivicRec is not a fit because it requires equipment, and most of our BI programs are at school sites, Clark County School District school sites, and some are at community centers. So it would work at our community centers, wouldn't work for us to bring equipment into school sites. We do use Eventbrite for some of our events. We're looking at Atlas in partnership with Workforce Connections because they have paid for that software management program to see if it will fit our needs. And one of our team members is also currently working with HubSpot right now. There's a free version and a paid version. We're looking at the free version to see if that's something that could automate. One of the issues, as the auditor brought up, is right now it's a manual process. With HubSpot's free version, it would be automated, but it would be 17 different automated systems. They wouldn't feed into one, which would be a little bit better than manual. But we're also looking at the cost estimate for the paid version, which would then kind of funnel it all into one system. The economic constraints right now are part of the issue, and then not making a snap decision and making sure we have a program that meets all of the needs. So we are in process of exploring multiple options and considering price and whether or not we try something for a little while and then pivot to something else.
Thank you. I just have one brief follow-up on that. How many people are actually accessing to do the input of the info? Is it spread out throughout all the, so there's up to 17
Each advisor.
people adding info?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what needs to be coordinated, at least 17
Each site
users.
has an adult advisor and youth leadership, and so each site would be a separate kind of data set, if you
User
will.
data set. Great, thank you.
And in between the times of implementing the software and where we're at now, pen to paper, are there any guidelines or policies and procedures that we've created to actually make sure that the right paperwork and right documentation is getting to the risk manager?
Yes, sir. For the trips, yes, as Deputy Auditor Cardoza mentioned, we implemented a whole new policy. We actually, shortly after implementing, had our first trip. So it was really helpful. What happened with our past procedures is we set a procedure that we weren't following because there were some duplicative forms. And so we abandoned one form, but it was on our list. So we were able to collapse forms and create one succinct process. We discovered with our first trip that there was another component that wasn't really conducive to the process. And so I went back to the auditors and said, hey, we created this process, but this has got to be a work in progress. So, and I'll give you an example. The trip requires the risk manager to sign off. He did. We now collect the forms for the binder, and then it required the head of the program to scan and send all the forms to the manager over the program and myself. It was 162 pages of documents, and it occurred to me in opening and filing through 162 pages, there was an issue with the scan, but even if there hadn't been, my thought was, it was a weekend trip. If there had been an emergency, it was February 1st, if there had been an emergency and I had to get up in the middle of the night and look through 162 pages, that would have been ridiculous. So already we've now kind of streamlined that process. So they're sending me just the basic information. Who was on that bus, adult-wise, youth-wise, and did we have permission? Then the completed binder, one in the advisor's office, one in our office. So then I would have time to get up, get myself together, come get the full 162 pages in the aftermath of an emergency. But for the short term, I need quick access to a snapshot of who's on that bus. So that's one example of a process that we've already changed since responding to the audit.
That's amazing. Yeah, at the company I'm working at now, we're already working on like a back-end integration of a software system that we'll be able to like have the centralized dashboard, so we'll be able to see it. So that will be very helpful moving forward. So hopefully that you find a quick software service that'll be able to help you out there, because it is a lot.
Maybe we
and thank
should
you for
talk.
everything.
All right, does anyone else have anything else to add? All right, so may I have a motion to approve this report?
A motion?
Is there a motion? All right, there's a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, please post, and the motion carries. Thank you. I do have one super quick question. The name of the program, Batteries Included, where does that come from? Is it a play on the movie Batteries Not Included? Because I just watched that about a couple months ago.
Hi, Tara speaking. We do get that question all the time. They're like, oh, from the movie,
From the
Batteries Not
movie,
Included. No, so we had some students when it started years ago, early 2000s, who came together. They were the first advisory board for the program and decided that they wanted to name it Batteries Included because we say that the youth already have the batteries. All we need to do is help charge them up.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Moving on to agenda item number 6, report by staff and discussion for possible action regarding an update on issued audit recommendations. Brian Smith, the acting city auditor, will give us this report. Please go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Brian Smith, Acting City Auditor. Thank you, Chair Price. Welcome to the new committee members. Appreciate your participation in this committee and looking forward to working with you. So twice a year, we brief the Audit Committee on the status of previously issued audit recommendations. And prior to the finalization of every audit report, we ask department management to give us their action plan as well as their estimated date of completion for each recommendation. And as you're aware, at the back of every audit report, we have management's response there. Upon release of an audit report, an audit recommendation is classified as not due. Once an audit recommendation's estimated date of completion passes, then the recommendation is classified as incomplete unless it has already been verified as having been addressed by an auditor. And then once an audit recommendation has been verified by an auditor as having been addressed, the classification is changed to complete. Over the past year, a total of 29 audit recommendations have been addressed by city departments as shown on this slide. We appreciate the work that goes into addressing our audit recommendations, and we applaud city departments for responding to our recommendations and improving their operations and controls. There's a quote I stumbled on from an experienced government auditor. The greatest value may not be found in the audit reports, but in the process of engaging with agency personnel, asking questions, assembling evidence, and communicating results in a way that persuades them to make fundamental changes in their activities, perspective, and future decision-making. I have found this quote to be true. Throughout my career here at the city, I've seen this principle in action. Our audits often spark a re-examination of procedures by city management and staff, leading to self-driven improvements that extend beyond the scope of our audit recommendations found in our audit reports. Over the past year, in response to our audit recommendations, as I mentioned, city departments have made valuable changes to their operations and controls. Let's just take a quick review through some of those improvements over the past year. The Department of Finance, they enhanced their cash handling procedures and provided direction to departments on procedures to follow when transporting cash deposits from one city facility to another or to a bank. They also provided direction to departments on procedures to be followed when a change fund custodian transfers to another location within a department. The Department of Economic and Urban Development, the parking division, improved their cash handling procedures and the controls and security surrounding the collection and deposit of parking payments received at special events and at the parking office front counter. The city marshals, they improved the security over the evidence management system that they use. The Administrative Services Division of Public Safety improved the controls over the management of the inmate commissary contract. They documented and implemented policies and procedures for improved monitoring of the contract, improved the process for reviewing and approving commissary item price changes, and they created more complete documented desk procedures for their staff to follow in managing the contract. And finally, our IT department has made some significant improvements over the last year in improving their asset inventory records and their asset reports. They have documented within their inventory system which assets are fixed assets and non-capitalized controlled assets, also known as sensitive assets. They also have defined what they consider to be controlled non-capitalized assets and identified them within the inventory system. They've documented and implemented a process to ensure compliance with Finance's asset reporting requirements and the proper approval of those reports prior to being submitted to Finance. They provided Finance with an updated report of their fixed assets, and they're now reconciling their fixed asset report to Finance on a monthly basis. And they also provided Finance with an updated report of their controlled, non-capitalized controlled assets. Once again, we appreciate all that these departments do in addressing our audit recommendations. As you can see, just over the past 12 months, some of the significant improvements that have been made as a result of our audit recommendations. So as of today, in addition to the 2 remaining YDSI recommendations that Nancy already discussed, there's only 1 additional incomplete recommendation, and that's with the Department of Finance. This recommendation asked Finance to clarify and provide direction on a section within the city's cash handling policies that required departments to complete periodic audits of their cash handling locations. Even though this requirement was in the policy, there was no direction about what that audit entailed, what Finance expected of the departments as it related to these audits. Corey DeMille, the Treasury Section Manager from the Department of Finance is here. to answer any questions you may have about their status in addressing this recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Good morning. Corey Mill, Treasury Section Manager. Finance is in the process of updating these cash handling policies, which will address the finding. The new policy will increase finance's oversight as well as the departments by requiring the departments to complete an annual cash handling compliance review. The review will be documented by completing a compliance review checklist developed by finance. Once a review is complete, the checklist will then be provided to finance to document that the annual review has been done. It also, same kind of instance with the cash counts as well. They'll be required to report to myself in finance that these two have both been done on an annual basis.
Great, great. Is there, thank you. Are there any questions from anyone? Does anyone have any questions? And is that something, I guess, on those procedures, as they're developed, maybe in the next audit committee meeting or when they're complete, we'll just get an update that they have been completed and are being put in place?
I'm hoping so. My timeline for this would be probably July to get it completed, and then I assume that it would take a little time to go up the chain through the unions and that and such. So I work closely with Brian, so we'll update you on that as well.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, if you're ready to continue, thank you,
All right.
Mr. Smith.
Brian Smith, Acting City Auditor. Finance has been working very close with us in addressing this recommendation, and I need to give them credit. Even though our recommendation was focused on one specific item within their cash handling policy, they realized as they were working with us the need to get that policy updated. And so they have, even though our recommendation is very focused on one element of that policy and procedure, they have expanded that, and which was definitely needed. So I look forward to having a new cash handling policy that we can audit to. So finally, there's two not due audit recommendations, and these were issued to our IT department. In these recommendations, we asked IT management to develop, document, and implement their asset verification process. IT management stated in their management response that they would have these recommendations addressed by July 25th, by July 2025. IT is well on their way to completing these recommendations. They have been working very close with us in addressing all of the recommendations within the fixed asset report. And these final two recommendations involve their annual inventory of all the controlled assets that need to be physically identified. And so as a part of our verification process, we will be doing some testing of their process, doing some sample testing of those assets that are a part of their IT assets. And that concludes my report. I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Does anyone have any questions?
I do have a question on this one. As you were describing just going through the non-capitalized sensitive assets, I think about just within our own internal team, right? When we have a new employee come on, they get a cell phone, et cetera. And so it led me to wonder, in terms of developing the processes, what is the, I guess, division or anticipated division between the IT department being responsible for managing and checking all of those non-sensitized or sensitized assets versus the individual departments? Like, so will we have, on the 7th floor, for example, a manager that will check all of our computers and phones, or will the IT department be responsible for going to every single department and checking on the different assets? So where's that division of responsibility coming out, I guess, between the departments and the IT department? If that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
Brian Smith, Acting City Auditor. Thank you, Councilwoman Bruni. Chris, could I call upon you to address that?
Thank you. Chris Craig, Director of Innovation and Technology, for the record. The process is going to be that we intake any orders, and our department works with finance directly on a report on fixed and sensitive assets, and we reconcile those reports on a regular basis to make sure that it's across the board. So it won't be the individual department's responsibility.
Is there any more questions? None? Seeing none, thank you. May I have a motion? Is there a motion to approve the report?
I move to approve the report.
There is a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed? Please post. The motion carries, and we'll move on to item number 7. Agenda item number 7, report by staff regarding current audits. Brian Smith, Acting City Auditor, will give this report. Please go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Brian Smith, Acting City Auditor. Our office is currently involved in the following performance audits. We're doing an audit of the business licensing compliance section within the Department of Community Development. James Burnett is the lead auditor in that audit. We're doing an audit of controlled substances management within the fire department, and Joe Throneberry is the lead auditor on that audit. We're also auditing human resources. We're auditing the employee separation process. Nancy Cardoza is the lead auditor on that audit. And we're also doing another audit in IT of mobile communication devices, including tablets, phones. And Louis Halad, our IT auditor, is the lead auditor on that audit. And that concludes my report.
All right, are there any questions from anyone? All right, seeing none. This item is report only and no motion is required. We will now move on to item number 8. Agenda item number 8, report by staff regarding the fraud hotline implementation and activity. Joe Throneberry, Senior Forensic Auditor, will give this report. Please go ahead, Mr. Throneberry.
Thank you, Chair Price, and good morning, committee members. As shared previously with the Audit Committee, the city's fraud hotline went live on September 23rd, 2024. The fraud hotline is accessible via phone, mobile device, and online, both internally and externally, 24/7, allowing individuals to submit reports in English, Spanish, and Tagalog. In November, Speak Up posters, as you see posted on the screen, were distributed to all departments for posting alongside other mandatory HR information. Additionally, the fraud hotline has been communicated to employees via the weekly email address to employees that comes out each Wednesday. It has gone out twice now via that communication method. Additionally, department directors and administrative assistants have had this communication distributed to them directly. The Fraud Committee, comprised of the City Manager, City Attorney, and Acting City Auditor, meets monthly to review hotline activity, and is currently in the process of updating the city's fraud policy. Since launching, we have received 19 reports into Ethics Point, our fraud hotline software. 10 of these have been actionable by the city. 8 of these cases involved personnel matters and were referred to Human Resources for investigation and resolution via their established processes. 6 of these cases are still under investigation. 1 case was referred to the city's Code Enforcement Division and another to business licensing. Fraud has not been confirmed in any of the cases to date. 9 non-actionable cases were received through the hotline. These did not fall within the purview of the hotline, or there was insufficient details for investigation. Where appropriate, the hotline reporter was referred to the most suitable agency, such as the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, for further assistance. As we continue to progress with the fraud hotline process, we're going to continue to partner with the city manager to further promote the hotline and awareness amongst employees where appropriate, also participating in those fraud investigations to ensure any citywide or departmental systemic internal controls that related to that fraud, waste, and abuse are addressed in addition to the investigation itself. That concludes my report, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Throneberry. Are there any questions from the members? We have at least one.
Thank you, Mr. Throneberry. I have one question. You mentioned that there were 9 unactionable filings or cases, and one of the reasons is that you may not have enough information. So are you able, based on how people report the potential fraud, to contact the person that calls in to get more information, or is it completely anonymous? So if there's no information, not enough information, it's just you, there's no way of finding out more information?
Thank you for the question. There is a way confidentially in the system if the individual reporter remains anonymous, so we do have the ability to reach out via that third-party software. However, it does require them to log back in and check the message from the city. Most of the inactionable were reporting identity fraud, and those were referred to Las Vegas Metro PD's Financial Crimes Unit.
Now, since we first implemented this, I have had some questions, maybe not concerns, about just the marketing and the kind of the message that that the flyer has. It kind of just seems like it's more based towards like employee disputes or, you know, incidents. Are there continuous trainings as well that kind of makes this more toward a fraud and abuse? I'm kind of coming to blank here, but it seems a lot more like this is going to go towards HR concerns rather than fraud itself.
The poster that was created and provided to us by the vendor is very generic and speak up. On the website where the fraud report, it does break down the categories, and we are very specific at this point to fraud, waste, and abuse, not opening it up as a general ethics HR case management system at this point. Over time, the system may develop. Continuing education and awareness, we have partnered with the city manager to attend the executive point of meetings that's on the radar, as well as continuing to work with HR and possibly having this similar to the safety presentation, may work this in with the new hire orientations. And as we audit in various departments, we continue to promote the fraud hotline from the city auditor's office.
That's great, thank you.
I do have one question as well. Is this the only hotline? Is there a whistleblower hotline, or you mentioned an HR hotline, or this is the only one for now?
This is the only hotline for fraud, waste, and abuse. The previous policy had reference to call directly to the marshals. We found some opportunities with that being friendly for individuals that may want to report, given that it was a recorded line. They may have some confidentiality concerns. So prior to this, the method was what we instructed employees and vendors was to contact the city marshals. We've moved to this in September, but this does not supplement any other process that's in place, such as reporting sexual harassment through the appropriate HR channels or going outside of the city for other violations.
Great, thank you.
And I just have one quick little follow-up to what Councilwoman Bruni had said. After someone makes a claim or a report, do they get proper feedback as to just to know that it was received, it was acknowledged, somebody's doing something about it, so that they feel like their complaint or their concern had been addressed? Are they getting feedback just so they know that something's going on?
Absolutely. When you make a complaint, you'll receive an automated case number, and that case number is how you would communicate with the system to log back in and check for any updates. When your investigation or when your complaint is closed, there is a notification, as well as if the investigator wishes to communicate you through the system, you have the option to log back in and continue to be anonymous during that interaction. Otherwise, individuals can also identify themselves and list all their contact information in the complaint.
Great, yeah. You know what, with something like this, I think it's very important that that person, that individual, feels like somebody's doing something about it. And a lot of these things turn out, nothing can be done, or it's outside the scope of the city, or it belongs to another agency. But they feel like someone has acknowledged them, heard them, and something's going on. And that makes a big difference. Thank you. So if there's no more questions, this item is report only and no motion is required. So we will now move on to item number 9. Thank you. Item number 9, discussion regarding topics for future agenda items. Comments made during this portion of the agenda by individual members shall refer solely to proposals for future agenda items, and discussion shall be limited to whether or not such proposed items are within the purview of the committee and/or whether such proposed items shall be placed on a future agenda. No discussion regarding the substance of any such proposed topic shall occur, and no action shall be taken. Does anyone have any suggestions regarding future agenda item topics at this time? Seeing none at this time, we'll move on to item number 10. Agenda item number 10 is citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the committee. No subject may be acted upon by the committee unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come forward and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Is there anyone wishing to be heard at this time? Seeing none, I'm going to make just a brief comment. As we were getting ready for this meeting today and looking at things, it always amazes me. The city has about $1.5 billion in revenue approximately for the last couple fiscal years. And I looked around town and I thought, like, Station Casinos, for example, Red Rock Resorts, they have about $1.5 billion in revenue for the last fiscal year. And they have about 15 to 20 auditors running around that place. And I looked at Boyd Casino Corporation, and in Nevada, their revenue is about $1.5 billion. And they have about 15 or 20 auditors running around that place. And I audited casinos my entire career and different kind of businesses of all sorts. And so the city with $1.5 billion in revenue has five internal auditors. So just from the scale and scope of the city's activities and everything that happens and the risks involved as a relation, because this is the government, it's for the public, it's not a private corporation. So just that juxtaposition of 15 to 20 auditors for 1.5 billion versus 5 for 1.5 billion. And as we see in this committee today and everything that you guys do, I just think you do an excellent job with the small staff that you have, given the size of the city's operations. So I just wanted to add that very briefly and say that we definitely appreciate it. Seeing no other citizens' comments, we'll move on to agenda number 11, item number 11, adjournment. The next Audit Committee Oversight meeting is scheduled for Monday, July 21st, 2025. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Good job, you're a pro.
Well, thank you. All right. I'll live up to Victoria's.
How long have you been on the audit committee?
I've been on